Bruce Nauman is an American artist that began his artistic production in the mid-60s and is considered one of the major figures in contemporary art. In his career lasting more than half a century, he has created pieces with almost any media, sculpture, performance, photography, sound, you name it, with a radical cross-cutting approach. He actually pushed the boundaries of what art could or should be in relation to dimensions like time and space, and that's really what you're being tested on here in this exhibit, where the visitor is being asked to be proactive and interact with the art piece and in a certain way become part of it. In his work and in these images, you can clearly see how the human body and ultimately the visitor is being used as a measurement tool, like a sort of guinea pig to understand and test human behavior in these definitely unfriendly environments. This piece here is very interesting. It is accessible by one person at a time, needs to be booked in advance actually, and the person has the possibility to lock himself in for the duration of an hour. As you certainly will have noticed, there is also an interesting exclusion element to these art pieces. Not one size fits all, and many visitors will not be able to enter some narrow corridors or a locked aisle like in this last case. Certainly an element for reflection. I must say it will be a sort of a psychological and physical, not torture, but challenge for someone to go through these experiences. Just by viewing these images, you sort of feel a sense of entrapment, alienation, and disorientation. You're sort of testing your limits here. Here you can see Nauman playing around with VCR recording devices, something he has done since the VCR first appeared on the scene in the early 70s. On entering the corridor and approaching the monitors, you quickly come under the area surveyed by the camera. Problem is, the closer you get to the monitor, the further you are from the camera, with the result that your image on the monitor becomes increasingly smaller. Another cause for irritation. You see yourself from behind. Nauman started off as a mathematics and physics student in the 60s, but then decided to redirect his studies towards art. His mathematical background is, however, clearly visible in his work defined by precise geometrical figures and that are ultimately architectural pieces. In 1967, he actually held his first solo show at the famous Leo Castelli Gallery in New York. In those years, many minimal and conceptual artists would use neon tubes in their art. He used this medium as well to play around with words and put irony into statements like his art piece, The True Artist Helps the World by Revealing Mystic Truths, a profound but also ridiculous statement. He did this as a means to distance himself from a sort of status that conceptual art appeared to have at the time. Here you can see his piece, double steel cage. It's basically two cages, one inside the other, separated by a narrow aisle. The inner cage is inaccessible, and it's pretty tough to get into this thing if you're not pretty skinny. So then again, there you have that exclusion element, and overall it's a pretty claustrophobic experience. Once you enter the exhibit, you enter this huge hangar, and it's a huge space with a very incredibly high ceiling. It's an open space, but sometimes closed by these corridors you've been seeing. So your brain continuously switches between these two dimensions. The works created can be looked at, but you can also interact with these alienating places that lead the visitor to unusual behaviors, if you think about it. You can touch the smooth and color-painted or artificially lit wooden walls, and it's, really a unique experience. So if you're in Milan or surrounding areas in Europe, I would really advise to visit this exhibit because on top of everything, it's fun. Here you can see Nauman once again play with space. This is his artist studio in New Mexico, and he is basically transposing one space into another with the help of these projections on the wall. Here Nauman is playing with both sound and video. You can see actor Rinde spinning in different directions and obsessively repeating the sounds you can hear for yourself.